The scent of aged paper and leather was Ilara's most cherished perfume. It clung to the worn wooden shelves of the gilded page, mingled with the faint sweet aroma of beeswax polish and the ever-present briny tang of Starhaven Bay. Outside, the afternoon sun, a benevolent golden orb, cast long shadows down Main Street, illuminating dust motes dancing in the streams of light that cut through the shop's arched windows. Inside, Ilara, with her quiet grace and hands stained faintly with ink, was a creature perfectly attuned to her sanctuary. She ran her fingers over the spine of a newly rebound first edition of a forgotten poet, its fresh leather cover gleaming under the soft glow of her desk lamp. The meticulous work of restoration was her calling, a balm for a heart that had once been bruised but was now contentedly mended, if still a little guarded. Each frayed page mended, each broken spine repaired, was a small act of resurrection, a testament to the enduring power of stories. Starhaven Bay wasn't just a place on a map. It was a feeling, a hush of sea breeze and the rhythmic sigh of waves against ancient cliffs. Nestled where the dense pine forests met the churning cerulean of the Pacific, it was a town woven from salt spray and starlight. Its inhabitants were a tapestry of fishermen with weathered faces and booming laughs, artists who captured the shifting light of the ocean, and quiet dreamers like Ilara, who found solace in the steady rhythm of life by the sea. Her small cottage, perched on a rise overlooking the bay, offered her a nightly panorama of constellations spilling across the inky sky and the distant, comforting blink of the old lighthouse. After a particularly harsh winter of the heart some years ago, Ilara had found her way back to the town where she'd spent her childhood summers. The Gilded Page had been an abandoned shell of a bookstore then, its windows boarded, its spirit dormant. With patient hands and a determined spirit, she had breathed new life into it, transforming it into a haven for rare books, forgotten tales, and the delicate art of bookbinding. It was more than a shop. It was a quiet testament to her own journey of healing, a place where stories, both old and new, were treated with reverence. She loved the rhythm of her days, the early morning walk along the misty shore, the comforting clatter of the coffee grinder at Mrs. Gable's bakery, the hushed concentration of her work, and the evening ritual of reading by the fire, the sounds of the ocean a lullaby against her window panes. Her life was peaceful, predictable, and she told herself, perfectly fulfilling. There were no dramatic highs, but also no crushing lows. It was a gentle equilibrium carefully maintained. Then, the chime above the shop door sang a gentle, unfamiliar tune one Tuesday afternoon. Ilara looked up, her spectacles perched on the tip of her nose, to see a man standing just inside the threshold. He wasn't a tourist, not with the easy confidence in his posture, nor a local she recognized. He was tall, with broad shoulders encased in a worn, dark blue flannel shirt, and hair the color of rich earth, a few strands falling across a thoughtful brow. His eyes, the color of a stormy sea, but with a surprising warmth, met hers, and a flicker of something she couldn't quite name stirred within her. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble, like pebbles shifting on a quiet shore. "I hope I'm not disturbing anything." "Not at all," Ilara replied, setting down her bone folder. "Welcome to the Gilded Page. Can I help you find something?" He offered a small, easy smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Actually, I have something that might need finding, or perhaps rescuing." He held up a package wrapped in brown paper, carefully tied with twine. "I was told this was the place for lost causes." Ilara's curiosity was piqued. "We certainly try. What have you got there?" He unwrapped the package, with a gentle reverence that instantly warmed her to him. Inside lay a book, thick and heavy. Its once vibrant green cover now faded and water-stained, its spine utterly detached. It looked like it had been through a storm, perhaps even spent time at the bottom of the ocean. Yet, there was an undeniable dignity about it, an aura of quiet importance. "It's an old field guide," he explained, carefully laying it on her counter. "Belonged to my grandfather. He was a marine biologist, and this book was his constant companion. It's seen better days, as you can tell. A rather unfortunate incident involving a rogue wave and a very clumsy me years ago." A wry humor touched his lips. "I've kept it, hoping one day to find someone who could truly bring it back to life. My colleagues in the city recommended you, Said you were a bit of a wizard with old books. Elara carefully picked up the remnants, her fingers tracing the delicate, almost imperceptible lines of the water damage. The pages within were brittle, some stuck together, but the faint outline of pressed seaweed and handwritten notes in the margins were still visible. It was a treasure, despite its condition. "It's a beautiful challenge," she murmured, already envisioning the meticulous process. "This will take some time and a lot of care. The paper is very fragile, but I believe it can be saved. What's your name, by the way?" "Liam," he offered, extending a hand across the counter. His grip was firm, warm. "Liam Thorne, and you must be Elara." "That's me," she confirmed, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. She rarely had such personal interactions with clients, most of whom were tourists browsing or locals dropping off familiar volumes. Liam Thorne was different. His presence filled the quiet space of her shop in a way no one else has had. "It's a genuine relief to find you, Elara," Liam continued, his gaze sweeping around her shop, taking in the towering shelves, the antique globe, the stacks of leather-bound wonders. "This place, it's exactly as I imagined, or perhaps better." Elara felt an unfamiliar warmth bloom in her chest. "Thank you. It's been a labor of love." They discussed the restoration process in detail, Elara explaining the intricacies of re-sewing the text block, reinforcing the pages, recreating the cover. Liam listened intently, asking thoughtful questions that showed a deep respect for the object and her craft. He spoke of his grandfather, a man who had loved the ocean with a fierce passion, and how this guide was filled with his observations, his dreams. "He taught me everything I know about the sea," Liam said, a nostalgic note in his voice. "He always said the ocean whispers its secrets to those who listen closely enough. This book, it holds some of those whispers." Elara found herself captivated, not just by the story of the book, but by Liam himself. There was an earnestness about him, a genuine connection to his past and to the natural world. She hadn't realized how much she missed conversations that went beyond polite pleasantries. "I'll keep you updated on its progress," she promised, carefully placing the damaged book in a special box. "It might be a few weeks, possibly a month, depending on how the materials respond." "Take all the time you need," Liam said, his smile returning. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm actually here in Starhaven Bay for a while myself. I'm a marine biologist working on a project with the local conservation trust, establishing a new protected area just north of the bay." "That's wonderful," Elara said, genuinely pleased. "We could certainly use more efforts to protect our coastline." "My thoughts precisely," he agreed. "It's a beautiful stretch of water teeming with life, and the community here seems incredibly supportive." Their conversation drifted then, from marine life to the quirks of small-town living to the best places for a quiet hike. Elara, usually reserved with strangers, found herself opening up, sharing anecdotes about Starhaven Bay, her favorite hidden coves, the eccentricities of her regular customers. Liam listened with an easy attentiveness, his gaze warm and steady. When he finally bid her goodbye, promising to check in on the book's progress, the shop felt suddenly quieter, the air a little cooler. Elara found herself humming a soft, unfamiliar tune as she returned to her workbench, her fingers tracing the outlines of the damaged field guide. Liam Thorne, with his stormy sea eyes and the story of his grandfather's whispers, had left an imprint, a ripple, in the calm surface of her carefully constructed world. The next few days were punctuated by the thought of him. She found herself looking up each time the shop door chimed, a faint flutter in her stomach. She caught herself wondering where he was, what he was doing, out there on the vast, sparkling ocean. It was a novel sensation, a gentle stirring of anticipation she hadn't felt in a long, long time. True to his word, Liam returned the following week. He didn't come to check on the book, not directly. He came with a small, carefully wrapped package, a bag of locally roasted coffee beans from a tiny family-run farm he'd discovered up in the hills. "Just thought you might appreciate a good brew," he said, handing it to her with that easy smile. "I noticed the scent of coffee wasn't quite strong enough to compete with all this wonderful old paper." Elara laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. "That's incredibly thoughtful, Liam. Thank you." They chatted for a while, standing by the counter, the afternoon sun painting stripes across the wooden floor. He asked about her week, about the challenges of book restoration, about the history of some of the more unusual volumes on her shelves. He had a way of making her feel seen, truly seen, not just as the proprietor of a quaint shop, but as Alara, the woman who loved stories and the quiet magic of her craft. He told her more about his work, about the delicate balance of the marine ecosystem, the incredible intelligence of octopi, the migrations of whales. His passion was infectious, and Alara found herself envisioning the vibrant underwater world he described, a stark contrast to the quiet, landlocked world of her shop. "You should come down to the harbor sometime," he suggested, leaning against the counter, his hands tucked into his pockets. "I'm usually out on the research vessel in the mornings, but in the afternoons, I'm often at the lab, analyzing samples. I could show you some of the things we're working on. It's quite fascinating, I promise." Alara hesitated. Her world rarely extended beyond the comfortable boundaries of her shop and her cottage. Inviting someone into her carefully curated piece was rare, almost unheard of. But the thought of seeing Liam's world, the world he was so passionate about, was strangely appealing. I like that, Liam," she said, a shy smile gracing her lips. "I really would." He left shortly after, leaving behind the rich aroma of coffee and a lingering sense of warmth. Alara found herself smiling as she brewed a cup of the new coffee, the rich, earthy scent filling the shop. It felt like a small, precious gift, a bridge between their two worlds. The following Saturday, Alara found herself walking down to the harbor, a rare venture for her, on a weekend. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of diesel and brine, and the cries of gulls wheeled overhead. Fishing boats bobbed gently in the water, their nets neatly stacked. She spotted Liam almost immediately, his tall frame unmistakable, standing by a small, unassuming building at the end of the pier, a sign above it reading Starhaven Marine Research Lab. He waved, a broad, welcoming gesture, and she felt a lightness in her step as she approached. "Alara, you made it." "I did," she said, feeling a touch self-conscious but also undeniably pleased. "It's a beautiful day for it." Liam led her inside the lab, a space that was a stark contrast to the hushed tranquility of her shop. It hummed with the quiet whir of machinery, the gentle gurgle of tanks, and the crisp, clean smell of antiseptic. Microscopes lined a long workbench, computer screens displayed complex data, and large aquariums held various marine specimens, darting fish, delicate anemones, and a particularly curious-looking octopus tucked into a ceramic pot. "Welcome to my natural habitat," he said with a grin, gesturing around. "A little different from the Gilded Page, I imagine." "A lot different," Alara agreed, her eyes wide with fascination. "It's incredible, Liam." He spent the next hour showing her around, explaining the various projects, his voice animated with enthusiasm. He pointed out different species of plankton under a microscope, demonstrating their intricate beauty. He showed her samples of coral, explaining the threats they faced. He even introduced her to the octopus, a shy creature named Inkwell, who peered out from its pot with intelligent eyes. Alara listened, captivated. She saw not just a scientist, but a man deeply connected to the pulse of life, a guardian of the ocean's fragile beauty. He spoke of its mysteries, its power, its quiet wisdom, echoing the sentiment of his grandfather's field guide. As they stood by a large window overlooking the bay, the late afternoon sun casting a golden glow on the water, Liam turned to her. "You know, my grandfather used to tell me that if you listen closely enough, especially at dusk, when the sea is calm, you can hear the ocean's whispers. The stories it's held for millennia, the secrets carried on the currents." Alara gazed out at the shimmering expanse. "I think I understand what he meant. Sometimes when I'm walking on the beach at dawn or late at night, I feel it. That sense of something ancient and vast, speaking in a language without words." Liam's gaze met hers, and for a moment, the world outside the lab faded away. There was a shared understanding in his eyes, a silent recognition of a kindred spirit. It was a whisper of connection, subtle yet profound, that resonated deep within Alara's heart. "You see the world with a similar kind of reverence, Alara," he said softly, his voice barely above a murmur. "You breathe life back into old stories, and I try to protect the living ones. There's a beautiful symmetry to that." Alara felt a flush rise to her cheeks, but this time it wasn't from shyness but from a quiet, burgeoning joy. His words felt like a key turning in a lock she hadn't even realized was there. As the sun began its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and rose. Liam walked her back towards Main Street. The air grew cooler, carrying the faint, comforting scent of wood smoke from a distant chimney. They walked in comfortable silence for a while, the rhythmic sound of their footsteps on the pavement, a gentle accompaniment to the distant murmur of the waves. "Thank you for today, Liam," Alara said as they reached the intersection leading to her shop. "It was truly wonderful and inspiring." He smiled, that easy, warm smile that always seemed to reach his eyes. "The pleasure was all mine, Alara. It's not every day I get to share my world with someone who appreciates it so completely." He hesitated, then added, "Perhaps we could do it again sometime? There's a particular tide pool I've been meaning to explore, and I think you'd find its inhabitants quite charming." Alara's heart gave a little leap. "I'd like that very much, Liam." As she entered her shop, the familiar scent of old books felt richer, imbued with a new layer of possibility. She looked out her window, watching Liam's silhouette as he walked away, until he disappeared around the bend. The sky was deepening to a velvety indigo, and the first stars were beginning to prick through, like tiny, hopeful pinpricks of light. She found herself standing by the counter, a faint smile on her lips, a new kind of whisper stirring within her, under the quiet grandeur of the Starhaven Bay sky. The quiet grandeur of the Starhaven Bay sky enveloped Alara's little bookstore, but inside, a new, softer grandeur was unfurling within her own heart. She leaned against the counter, the smooth, cool wood, a grounding presence beneath her fingertips. The scent of old paper and dust motes, dancing in the last slivers of twilight, felt less like a familiar comfort, and more like a prelude to something unknown and exciting. She thought of Liam's easy smile, the genuine curiosity in his eyes, the way his voice had a low, resonant quality that had lingered in the air long after he'd left. It wasn't just a fleeting impression, it was a deep, satisfying hum, a feeling akin to finding a perfectly preserved first edition of a beloved classic. She spent the rest of the evening in a gentle haze, tidying shelves with a newfound attention to detail, each book spine a reminder of stories waiting to be told, much like her own. She made a simple dinner, but even the familiar ritual of cooking felt different, infused with an almost giddy energy. Later, curled up in her reading nook, a mug of chamomile tea warming her hands, she found her usual escape into a novel interrupted by persistent thoughts of Liam. His mention of bringing his sketchpad to the cafe, his quiet observation about the light in the bay, small details that painted a picture of a thoughtful, observant man. She wondered what he was doing now, where he was staying, what his life had been like before Starhaven Bay. The questions buzzed around her like fireflies, illuminating corners of her usually well-ordered mind. Sleep came easily that night, but it was punctuated by dreams of sun-drenched beaches and laughter echoing over the waves, a gentle current pulling her towards an unknown shore. She woke with the first blush of dawn, the room bathed in soft, pearly light, a sense of lightness in her chest she hadn't felt in years. It was a feeling she almost didn't recognize, a quiet burgeoning of hope that made her smile into her pillow. The next morning, Alara found herself unconsciously reaching for her favorite sapphire blue linen dress, a color that always seemed to reflect the bay's deeper hues. She braided her hair with more care than usual, allowing a few soft tendrils to frame her face. The bookstore, when she opened it, felt less like a sanctuary and more like a stage, poised for a second act. She told herself she was being silly, that Liam was just a new face in a quiet town, a potential customer, nothing more. But the gentle flutter beneath her ribs told a different story. Hours passed, marked by the rhythmic chime of the door, as a few early customers came and went. She helped Mrs. Henderson find a new mystery novel, and chatted with young Thomas about the latest fantasy release. Each time the bell chimed, a little spark of anticipation ignited within her, only to gently fade. She told herself it was probably better this way, that she was overthinking things. And yet, a part of her still held its breath. It was late afternoon when the bell finally chimed with a different kind of cadence, a more resonant sound that seemed to vibrate straight to her soul. Liam stood in the doorway, a canvas tote bag slung over his shoulder, a sheepish smile playing on his lips. He was wearing a soft gray t-shirt that brought out the flecks of silver in his hair, and jeans that looked perfectly worn. He carried the aura of someone who was comfortable in his own skin, yet there was a new note of quiet nervousness in his posture. "Alara," he said, his voice a low rumble, instantly familiar. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Liam, she replied, her voice coming out a little breathier than she intended. Not at all. I was actually just tidying up. She gestured vaguely at a perfectly ordered shelf. Did you find that book you were looking for? He walked further into the shop, his gaze sweeping over the shelves, then settling on her. I did, actually. Or rather, I didn't. The library didn't have it, and I thought I'd check back here. It's a rather obscure one. The Architects of Dreams by Eleanor Vance. Early 20th century architectural philosophy. Elara's eyebrows rose. Eleanor Vance? That's a rare find. I might have a first edition tucked away in the back. My grandfather was a bit of a collector of unusual titles. Give me a moment. She disappeared behind a curtain that led to the dusty, hallowed archives, a place few customers ever saw. The air was thicker back there, redolent with the scent of aged paper and forgotten stories. After a few minutes of careful searching, her fingers brushed against a slim, leather-bound volume. Aha, she murmured triumphantly. When she emerged, Liam was standing by the large bay window, looking out at the shimmering expanse of water. He turned as she approached, his eyes lighting up when he saw the book in her hands. You found it, he said, a genuine delight in his tone. I can't believe it. I've been looking for this for ages. It's a beautiful edition, Elara said, carefully placing it on the counter. My grandfather always said Vance had a unique way of articulating the soul of a structure, not just its form. Liam nodded, his gaze lingering on the book. Exactly. She saw buildings as living things, reflections of the human spirit. It's a concept I've always gravitated towards. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers, a warmth spreading through them. Thank you, Elara. This means a lot. It's my pleasure, she said, a soft blush rising to her cheeks. It's always nice to see a book find its true home. He hesitated, then reached into his tote bag. I also brought this, on the off chance you might be interested. He pulled out a large, spiral-bound sketch pad. I was sketching down by the old lighthouse this morning. The way the light hits the stones at sunrise, it's incredible. He opened the pad to a page, revealing a charcoal sketch of the Starhaven Bay Lighthouse, rendered with a stunning eye for detail and atmosphere. The rough texture of the stone, the swirling patterns of the water, the dramatic sweep of the light beam, it was all there, captured with an almost breathtaking realism, yet imbued with an artistic soul. Liam, Elara breathed, tracing the lines with her gaze. This is magnificent. You're incredibly talented. A flush spread across his cheekbones. Just a hobby, mostly. But Starhaven Bay, it's inspiring. Everywhere I look, there's something new to capture. He paused, then looked at her directly. Speaking of capturing things, I was wondering if you might be free to capture some coffee with me sometime? Or perhaps a walk by the pier? There's a small cafe down the road that does excellent cappuccinos. Her heart gave a little leap. I'd like that very much, Liam. Great, he said, his smile widening, genuine relief washing over his features. How about tomorrow morning, say 10 o'clock? 10 o'clock sounds perfect, she confirmed, trying to keep her voice steady. He paid for the Vance book, lingered for a moment, his eyes meeting hers again, a silent understanding passing between them. Until tomorrow, then. Until tomorrow, she echoed, watching him go, the chime of the door a sweet melody in her ears. She picked up the sketch pad he'd left on the counter, turning the pages carefully. Each drawing was a testament to his keen eye, his patience, his ability to see the beauty in the world around him. She felt a profound sense of anticipation, a gentle hum of excitement that settled deep within her. The world, it seemed, was indeed full of possibilities. The next morning, Elara woke with a renewed sense of purpose. She chose a simple, elegant dress, a soft cream color that felt light and airy, and paired it with delicate silver earrings. She wanted to feel like herself, calm and collected, but also open to whatever the day might bring. At precisely 10:00, Elara found Liam waiting for her outside the little cafe, the Salty Bean, just a few doors down from her bookstore. He was leaning against the brick wall, a comfortable ease about him, but his eyes lit up the moment he saw her. Good morning, Elara, he greeted, pushing off the wall. You look lovely. Good morning, Liam, she replied, feeling a blush creep up her neck. You, too. He was wearing a light blue shirt that made his eyes seem even bluer, and she found herself noticing the way the morning light caught the subtle lines around his eyes, hints of laughter and thoughtful observation. They ordered their coffees, a cappuccino for him, a simple black coffee for her, and found a small table outside, overlooking the bustling main street of Starhaven Bay. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying the faint scent of salt and brewing coffee, and the chatter of early morning tourists and locals created a comforting backdrop. So, Liam began, taking a sip of his cappuccino. Tell me about Alara's books. How long have you had it? It's been in my family for 3 generations, she explained, a warmth spreading through her as she spoke of her legacy. My grandfather started it, then my mother ran it, and now me. It's more than just a shop. It's a part of Starhaven Bay, a place where stories live. I can tell, he said, his gaze genuine. There's a real sense of history and warmth there. It feels like a place where you could lose yourself for hours. He paused. And what about you, Alara? What drew you to continue the family tradition? I grew up among books, she said, a soft smile gracing her lips. They were my first friends, my first teachers. I tried to pursue other things after college, a brief stint in publishing in the city, but I always felt the pull back here. There's something deeply satisfying about connecting people with the right book, watching their eyes light up. And Starhaven Bay itself, it's a place that gets into your soul. I'm starting to understand that, Liam mused, looking out at the bay, where a few sailboats were already beginning to dot the horizon. I've lived in cities my whole life, always chasing the next big project, the next skyline to shape. But there's a different kind of rhythm here, a slower, more intentional pace. It's refreshing. What brought you to Starhaven Bay? Alara asked, curious about his story. Liam took a breath, a slight hesitation in his posture. A project initially. A client bought a large plot of land on the northern bluffs, wants to build a unique, sustainable home with panoramic views. It's a challenging but exciting design. But then as I started spending more time here, sketching, exploring, I realized it wasn't just about the project anymore. It felt like a breath of fresh air. He looked at her, a hint of vulnerability in his eyes. The constant pressure of city life, the endless demands, it can wear you down. I needed a change. Alara nodded, understanding. A change of scenery can often bring a change of perspective. Precisely, he said, a grateful smile on his face. And finding your bookstore, meeting you, it's been a very welcome part of that change. The compliment hung in the air, warm and gentle, and Alara felt her cheeks flush again. They talked for over an hour, moving from books to architecture, from the history of Starhaven Bay to their favorite travel destinations. Liam spoke of his passion for sustainable design, of structures that harmonized with their environment rather than dominating it. Alara shared her love for classic literature, for the way stories could transport you to different worlds. They discovered a shared appreciation for quiet mornings, the scent of the sea, and the simple pleasure of a well-crafted cup of coffee. I should probably get back to the shop, Alara said eventually, though she secretly wished the conversation could continue indefinitely. There's a shipment of new releases coming in this afternoon. Of course, Liam said, rising with her. Thank you for the coffee, Alara. This was really nice. It was, she agreed, meeting his gaze. There was an unspoken connection in the air, a comfortable ease that transcended their brief acquaintance. I was thinking, Liam began, as they walked back towards the bookstore, there's a beautiful walking trail that winds along the cliffs north of town. It offers some incredible views, especially in the late afternoon. Would you be interested in exploring it sometime this week? I would love to, Alara said, her heart doing another quiet flutter. How about Thursday? The shop closes a little earlier then. Thursday it is, he confirmed, his smile broadening. Around 4 o'clock? I can meet you here. Perfect, she said, feeling a joyous lightness in her step. As she stepped back into her bookstore, the familiar scent of paper felt infused with a new vibrancy. The Starhaven Bay sky outside seemed to shine a little brighter, and the stories within her shelves whispered not just of adventure and romance, but of a promising new chapter unfolding in her own life. The days leading up to Thursday were filled with a delicious anticipation. Alara found herself humming as she worked, her mind often drifting to Liam, to his earnest eyes, his easy laugh, the quiet passion in his voice when he spoke of architecture. She noticed more details about the town, seeing it perhaps through his fresh eyes. The intricate Victorian trim on the old houses, the way the light played on the weathered fishing boats in the harbor, the subtle shifts in the bay's color throughout the day. She felt more alive, more attuned to the beauty around her. When Thursday afternoon arrived, Alara closed the shop promptly at 3, a rare indulgence. She changed into comfortable walking shoes and a light jacket, her heart beating a little faster with each passing minute. Liam was waiting, as promised, leaning against the lamppost just outside. He looked relaxed and happy, a wide, easy smile spreading across his face as she approached. "Ready for an adventure?" he asked, his eyes sparkling. "More than ready," she replied, feeling a sense of playful excitement she hadn't experienced in years. They drove in his sturdy, practical SUV to the trailhead, a short distance north of town. The air grew cooler as they ascended, and the scent of pine needles mingled with the salty breeze. The trail was well maintained but rugged enough to feel like a true escape into nature. As they walked, Liam pointed out different rock formations, explaining how the ancient geology of the area had shaped the coastline. He spoke of his fascination with the way nature designed its own structures, the incredible resilience and beauty of the natural world. Alara listened, captivated, offering her own observations about the local flora, the names of the wildflowers blooming alongside the path. They reached a stunning overlook, a rocky outcrop that offered panoramic views of the entire bay. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple, casting a golden glow over the tranquil water. Below them, Starhaven Bay glittered like a scattered handful of diamonds, and Alara's bookstore, a tiny, beloved dot, was just visible. "It's breathtaking, isn't it?" Liam murmured, standing beside her, their shoulders almost touching. "It truly is," Alara agreed, feeling a profound sense of peace settle over her. "I forget sometimes, even living here, just how beautiful it is." "That's the thing about beauty," Liam said softly. "Sometimes you need to step away or see it through new eyes to truly appreciate it again." He turned to her, his gaze intense. "You have that kind of quiet beauty, Alara, the kind that makes you want to stop and really look." Her breath hitched in her throat. The compliment, delivered with such sincerity, sent a warm flush through her. She found herself meeting his gaze, lost for a moment in the depth of his blue eyes. There was no artifice, no flirtation, just genuine admiration. "Thank you, Liam," she whispered, her voice a little shaky. That's very kind." He smiled, a gentle, understanding smile. "It's just the truth." He turned back to the view, giving her a moment to compose herself. "I've been thinking about the project I'm working on here," he continued, his voice returning to a more conversational tone, but still soft. "The client wants a modern home, but I want it to feel like it belongs, like it grew out of the landscape. Not just a structure, but a sanctuary." "Like a story," Alara suggested, finding her voice again. "Every good story has a setting that feels integral to its plot, a place that shapes the characters." "Exactly," Liam said, turning back to her, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. "You understand that. So many architects just focus on form and function, but there's a soul to a place, a spirit that needs to be honored." He paused. "I feel that here, in Starhaven Bay. And I feel it, with you." The last words hung in the air, a quiet declaration. Alara's heart thrummed. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, and a gentle breeze rustled through the trees, carrying the scent of the sea. She looked at Liam, truly looked at him, and saw not just a charming newcomer, but a man of depth, of passion, of quiet strength. And she realized, with a startling clarity, that the new kind of whisper stirring within her was growing louder, becoming a clear, resonant song. They walked back down the trail as twilight deepened, the path illuminated by the soft glow of the rising moon. The conversation flowed easily between them, touching on everything and nothing, comfortable silences interspersed with shared laughter. When they reached his car, Liam turned to her. "Thank you, Lara," he said, his voice low. "This was exactly what I needed, and it was even better because you were with me." Thank you, Liam, she replied, her voice soft. I enjoyed it more than I can say. He opened her door, and as she settled in, his hand brushed hers. A small spark, an electric current passed between them. It was fleeting, but potent. He closed the door, walked around to his side, and started the engine. The drive back was quieter, filled with an unspoken intimacy, a growing awareness of each other. Back at her bookstore, he walked her to the door. The streetlights cast a soft glow, illuminating the familiar facade. Well, Liam said, a hint of reluctance in his voice. Good night, Alara. Good night, Liam, she replied, her gaze lingering on his. He hesitated, then took a small step closer. I really like spending time with you, Alara. I like spending time with you too, Liam, she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. He reached out, gently cupping her cheek, his thumb brushing softly against her skin. It was a tender, chaste touch, but it sent shivers down her spine. His eyes searched hers, a question in their depths, and Alara found herself leaning into his touch, her own eyes closing for a fleeting moment. Then, just as gently, he pulled his hand away. I should let you get inside, he said, his voice a little rougher now. It's getting late. Yes, she managed, her heart still thrumming. He smiled, a soft, wistful smile, and then, with a nod, he turned and walked away. Alara watched him go, until his silhouette disappeared into the soft darkness of the street. She stood there for a long moment, her cheek still tingling from his touch, the warmth of it spreading through her. She unlocked her door, stepping inside the quiet bookstore. The air felt charged, infused with the lingering presence of their evening together. She knew, with a certainty that settled deep in her bones, that this was just the beginning. The story of Alara and Liam was still unfolding, chapter by beautiful chapter, under the watchful, star-dusted sky of Starhaven Bay. And she couldn't wait to read what happened next. Alara closed the door, the click echoing softly in the silence of the starry chapter. Her hand still hovered near her cheek, a ghost of Liam's touch lingering, a warmth that had nothing to do with the fading summer air. She moved through the aisles, her fingers brushing over the spines of books, a smile playing on her lips. Each volume, usually a source of comfort and familiarity, now seemed to hum with a new, vibrant energy. It was as if the very air in the bookstore had absorbed some of the magic of her evening with Liam. She paused by the large window overlooking the quiet main street, the streetlights casting soft halos on the damp pavement. Starhaven Bay, even in its slumber, felt alive, a silent witness to the unfolding story of her heart. She thought of Liam's easy laugh, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners, the sincerity in his voice as he spoke about the lighthouse, about his life. There was a quiet strength to him, a steady presence that was both grounding and exhilarating. He saw her, truly saw her, not just Alara the bookstore owner, but Alara the dreamer, the woman who found solace and adventure within the pages of a book. The practical side of her brain knew she should be checking inventory, preparing for tomorrow, but her mind refused to settle. It kept replaying moments, the shared smile over the menu, the comfortable silence as they walked, the brush of his hand as he helped her navigate a loose cobblestone. It wasn't a whirlwind romance, not a sudden, all-consuming fire. It was something deeper, something that felt like coming home. A gentle warmth, like sunlight filtering through ancient stained glass, illuminating a path she hadn't realized she was waiting to walk. She finally turned off the last light, plunging the bookstore into a comfortable dimness, save for the faint glow filtering in from the street. Climbing the stairs to her small apartment above, she felt a lightness in her step she hadn't experienced in years. The scent of old paper and new beginnings filled her lungs. She changed into her softest pajamas, curled up in bed, and instead of reaching for a book, she simply lay there, letting the memories of the evening wash over her. Sleep came easily, a peaceful drift into dreams filled with lighthouses and shared smiles. The next morning, Alara woke with a feeling of anticipation she hadn't known since childhood Christmases. The first thing she saw was the sunlight streaming through her window, a golden invitation. She stretched, a genuine smile gracing her lips, and padded into her small kitchen. As she put the kettle on, her phone buzzed on the counter. Her heart gave a little flutter, a happy, hopeful flutter. It was a text from Liam. Good morning, Alara. I hope you slept well after our lovely evening. I was just thinking about that little coffee shop down by the docks, the salty bean. Their blueberry muffins are legendary. Any chance you might be free for a quick coffee and muffin this morning? Say around 10. No pressure at all if you're busy with the bookstore. 1. Ilara's smile widened. It was perfectly Liam, thoughtful, considerate, and with a charmingly specific suggestion. She glanced at the clock. It was just past 8. Plenty of time to get the bookstore ready, open up, and then slip away for a short while. Good morning, Liam. I slept wonderfully. Thank you. And a blueberry muffin sounds absolutely divine. 10 o'clock works perfectly. See you there. Hun? So. She sent the reply, a joyful hum escaping her lips. The day, already bright, now felt infused with a special sparkle. She dressed quickly, choosing a soft cornflower blue sundress that reminded her of the clear morning sky. Downstairs, she opened the bookstore, letting in the fresh morning air, the scent of the sea mingling with the comforting aroma of paper and ink. She arranged a display of new releases, her movements imbued with a quiet energy. Precisely at 10, Ilara locked the bookstore door, a handwritten back in 20 minutes. Sign on display. She walked the short distance to the docks, the salty breeze teasing strands of hair from her ponytail. The Salty Bean was a cozy little place, its windows overlooking the bobbing boats in the harbor. Inside, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods was intoxicating. Liam was already there, seated at a small table by the window, a steaming mug in front of him. He looked up as she entered, his face breaking into that warm, genuine smile that had so captivated her. He stood, pulling out the chair opposite him. Ilara? Good morning, he said, his voice a low, pleasant rumble. You made it. Wouldn't miss it, especially with the promise of a legendary muffin? She teased, settling into the chair. He chuckled, and she noticed the subtle crinkling around his eyes again. I believe they live up to the hype. I already ordered you one and a latte. I hope that was all right. More than all right, Liam. You're terribly thoughtful. Their coffees and muffins arrived, and they fell into an easy conversation. They talked about their morning, about books, about the quirky charm of Starhaven Bay. Liam spoke about his work at the lighthouse, the meticulous care it required, the satisfaction of ensuring the beam shone brightly, guiding ships safely home. It's more than just a job, he explained, stirring his coffee. It's a legacy. My grandfather worked there, my father. There's a deep connection to the sea, to this place, that runs in my family. I understand that, Ilara said softly, taking a bite of her muffin. It was and legendary. The bookstore feels the same way for me. It's not just a business, it's a piece of my heart, a place I hope to share with others, just like my aunt did. He nodded, his gaze gentle and understanding. A place of stories then, both of ours. They talked for almost an hour, time slipping away unnoticed. There was a comfortable rhythm to their conversation, a natural ebb and flow that felt both new and familiar. When Ilara finally had to excuse herself to return to the bookstore, Liam walked her back, lingering at her door. Thank you, Ilara, he said, his hand resting lightly on the doorframe above her head. That was a perfect start to the day. Thank you, Liam, she replied, looking up at him, her heart feeling light and full. I really enjoyed it. His eyes held hers for a moment, a silent question passing between them, a shared acknowledgement of the growing connection. Then, with a reluctant smile, he stepped back. I'll see you soon. Soon, she echoed, watching him walk away, feeling a warmth that lingered long after he was out of sight. The next few days settled into a delightful pattern. Liam would often stop by the starry chapter in the late afternoon, just as Ilara was preparing to close. He wouldn't stay long, just long enough to browse for a new book. Sometimes a maritime history, sometimes a classic novel she recommended, and to share a quiet conversation. These visits became the highlight of her day, a gentle punctuation mark to her routine. One evening, as Ilara was dusting a shelf of first editions, Liam walked in, a small worn paperback in his hand. Ilara, he began, a hint of something earnest in his tone. I've been thinking. You've introduced me to so many wonderful stories here. I'd like to share a story with you. He held out the book. It was a collection of local legends and folklore from Starhaven Bay, compiled decades ago by a local historian. My grandmother used to read these to me when I was a boy. They're all about the old lighthouse, the fishermen, the hidden coves, and, well, a few ghost stories too. He grinned. I was wondering if you'd let me read some of them to you. We could sit out on the old pier at sunset, maybe tomorrow evening. Elara's heart swelled. It was such a tender, personal invitation. Liam, that sounds absolutely lovely. I'd love that more than anything. Tomorrow evening, then. The following evening, Elara met Liam at the old wooden pier, its weathered planks groaning softly underfoot. The sun was beginning its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and deep violet. Liam had brought a blanket and a thermos of hot apple cider. They settled down, legs dangling over the edge of the pier, the gentle lapping of the waves a soothing soundtrack. He opened the worn book, its pages soft with age, and began to read. His voice was warm and resonant, bringing the old tales to life. He read about the Starhaven siren, a mystical figure said to guide lost sailors, about the grumpy old lighthouse keeper who secretly adored the seagulls, about the hidden treasure rumored to be buried somewhere along the coast. Elara listened, captivated not just by the stories, but by the way Liam's voice imbued each word with a sense of wonder and nostalgia. As he read, the sky deepened to an inky blue, and the first stars began to prickle through. The lighthouse, a familiar sentinel in the distance, flickered to life, its powerful beam sweeping across the bay. This is magical, Liam, Elara whispered, leaning her head slightly against his shoulder, a natural, unthinking gesture that felt entirely right. Thank you for sharing this with me. He paused in his reading, closing the book gently. His arm came up, wrapping around her shoulders, pulling her just a little closer. My pleasure, Elara. There's something special about these stories, hearing them out here where they were born. He turned his head, his gaze finding hers in the twilight. You have a way of making everything feel special. Her heart skipped a beat. She could feel the warmth of his arm around her, the steady beat of his heart against her back. And you, Liam, have a way of opening up new worlds. They sat in comfortable silence for a long time, watching the lighthouse beam cut through the darkness, feeling the gentle sway of the sea, lost in the quiet magic of the moment. It was a kind of intimacy that transcended words, a shared understanding that settled deep within their souls. The following week brought a flurry of activity to Starhaven Bay. The annual summer solstice fair was approaching, a beloved tradition that transformed the town square into a vibrant tapestry of local crafts, food stalls, and live music. Elara was busy curating a special display of summer-themed books at the Starry chapter, hoping to capture the festive spirit. Liam, ever the community-minded soul, was volunteering to help set up the fairgrounds. One afternoon, he stopped by the bookstore, his shirt dusted with sawdust, a streak of paint on his cheek. Busy day, Elara? He asked, leaning against the doorframe, a tired but contented smile on his face. Always, she replied, smiling back. But it's a good kind of busy. Are you surviving the fair preparations? He chuckled. Barely, but it's all coming together. They're setting up the main stage now. I was wondering, would you like to come to the fair with me on Saturday evening? We could grab some dinner from the food trucks, listen to the music, maybe brave the Ferris wheel? His eyes sparkled with a playful glint. Elara's heart lifted at the invitation. I'd love to, Liam. The Ferris wheel sounds like a delightful challenge. Excellent, he said, pushing off the doorframe. I'll pick you up around 6 then. Get some rest, you look like you've been battling a dragon, not just organizing books. She laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. Only the occasional unruly shelf dragon. See you Saturday. Saturday evening arrived, draped in the soft, golden light of a perfect summer sunset. Elara wore a light, flowing dress, its floral pattern echoing the vibrant energy of the fair. When Liam arrived, dressed in a casual button-down shirt that brought out the blue in his eyes, he looked up at her apartment window and offered a small, shy wave. You look beautiful, Elara, he said, his gaze lingering on her for a moment, making her cheeks flush. And you look very handsome, Liam, she replied, feeling a pleasant warmth spread through her. They walked hand in hand to the town square, the air already thick with the scent of popcorn, grilling food, and the sweet promise of summer. Laughter and music drifted on the breeze, and the square buzzed with people. Liam navigated them through the crowd with an easy confidence, his hand firm and reassuring in hers. They sampled artisanal cheeses, shared a plate of crispy fish and chips from a local vendor, and laughed as a small child chased pigeons near the fountain. They stopped at a craft stall, admiring handmade jewelry, and Liam bought Alara a delicate silver charm shaped like a tiny open book. "For your stories," he said, pressing it into her palm. "And ours." Her eyes welled up slightly, touched by his thoughtfulness. "Liam, it's perfect. Thank you." She reached up, gently touching his cheek. "You're always so kind." He leaned into her touch, a soft smile on his lips. "Only for you." As twilight deepened, they found themselves drawn to the Ferris wheel, its colorful lights blinking against the darkening sky. There was a short line and they chatted idly, the gentle murmur of the crowd a backdrop to their conversation. When it was their turn, Liam helped Alara into the small gondola, ensuring she was comfortable before settling beside her. Slowly, the Ferris wheel began to turn, lifting them higher and higher above the fairgrounds. From above, Starhaven Bay spread out beneath them, a sparkling mosaic of lights. The lighthouse, a beacon of hope, shone brightly in the distance. "It's even more beautiful from up here," Alara breathed, leaning her head on Liam's shoulder, feeling completely at peace. "It is," Liam agreed, his voice soft, his gaze fixed on the horizon, then gently shifting to her. "But not as beautiful as you." Her heart fluttered. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his. There was a depth of emotion there, a quiet intensity that made her breath catch. He leaned in slowly, giving her ample time to pull away, but she didn't want to. She wanted this. His lips met hers, a soft, tender kiss that was everything she had imagined and more. It was gentle, hesitant at first, then deepened, filled with a quiet yearning, a promise of shared futures. It tasted of salt air, sweet cider, and the unspoken hopes that had been building between them. The world seemed to fade away, leaving only the two of them, suspended between earth and sky, illuminated by the distant lighthouse and the soft glow of the fair. When they finally broke apart, both a little breathless, the Ferris wheel was slowly descending, bringing them back to earth. Alara felt a profound sense of rightness, a feeling of being exactly where she was meant to be. Liam's thumb gently caressed her cheek, his eyes full of tenderness. "I think," he murmured, his voice a little husky, "that might be my favorite view of Starhaven Bay." She smiled, a radiant, joyful smile. "Mine too." The rest of the evening passed in a blissful haze. They walked hand in hand through the fair, the music and laughter feeling like a celebration just for them. Liam walked her back to the starry chapter, and they lingered at her door, reluctant to say goodnight. "Thank you for tonight, Liam," Alara said, her voice soft. "It was perfect." "Every moment with you is perfect, Alara," he replied, his gaze warm and steady. He leaned in, giving her another soft, lingering kiss, a gentle affirmation of their deepening connection. "Sleep well." "You too," she whispered, watching him walk away, feeling the familiar tingle on her lips, a sensation that now felt like a sweet memory in the making. Over the next few weeks, their relationship blossomed beautifully, like the summer flowers in the window boxes along Main Street. They had more dates, long walks along the beach at low tide, collecting sea glass and sharing childhood stories. Quiet evenings at Alara's apartment, where Liam would help her organize her burgeoning collection of rare books, and she would make him her aunt's famous lemon poppy seed cake, and even a spontaneous trip to a neighboring town for a book fair, where they spent hours lost among the stalls, discovering literary treasures together. Alara found herself falling deeper and deeper in love with Liam. His quiet strength, his unwavering kindness, his genuine interest in her world, it all drew her in. He wasn't just charming, he was profoundly good, with a gentle soul that resonated deeply with her own. He had a way of making her feel seen, cherished, and utterly safe. Liam in turn was enchanted by Alara. Her passion for books, her gentle wisdom, her infectious laugh, and the quiet resilience that lay beneath her calm exterior. He loved the way her eyes lit up when she spoke of a favorite author, the way she hummed softly as she moved through her bookstore, the way she always found the perfect story for every mood. With Alara, he felt a sense of belonging he hadn't realized he was missing, a quiet joy that settled deep in his chest. One blustery afternoon, a late summer storm rolled into Starhaven Bay. bringing with it sheets of rain and a fierce wind. Elara was alone in the bookstore, watching the rain lash against the windows, a cozy fire crackling in the hearth. The power flickered, then went out, plunging the store into a sudden, inky darkness. Elara fumbled for her emergency lantern, a slight tremor of unease running through her. Starhaven Bay wasn't prone to severe storms, but this one felt particularly strong. Just as she got the lantern lit, casting a warm, dancing glow over the shelves, she heard a firm knock on the door. Her heart gave a little jump. She peered through the glass, seeing Liam's silhouette, drenched but resolute, a large umbrella clutched in his hand. She quickly unlocked the door, letting him in. "Liam, what are you doing out in this weather?" she asked, concern lacing her voice. He stepped inside, shaking off the rain. "I finished my shift at the lighthouse, and I was worried about you being here alone in the dark, especially with the power out, and I brought supplies." He held up a bag, from which protruded the neck of a wine bottle and a bag of her favorite artisanal cheese. "Just in case you were in need of sustenance and company." Elara felt a wave of warmth wash over her, chasing away the last of her unease. He always knew just what she needed, even before she did. "Liam, you're absolutely wonderful," she said, a genuine smile spreading across her face. "Come in, get warm by the fire." He helped her light a few candles, their soft glow adding to the intimate atmosphere. They settled by the crackling fire, sharing the wine and cheese, the rhythmic patter of rain against the windows providing a comforting backdrop. They talked for hours, about anything and everything, their dreams, their fears, their hopes for the future. Liam spoke about his desire to perhaps one day write a book about the history of Starhaven Bay, a collection of stories and facts woven together. Elara shared her dream of expanding the Starry chapter to include a small community reading room, a place for local authors and book clubs. "That's a beautiful dream, Elara," Liam said, his hand finding hers, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. "I can see it now. A cozy room filled with the scent of coffee and old books, people sharing their thoughts and ideas. And you'd be the first author to read there," she said, her eyes shining. He smiled, a quiet, contented smile. "Perhaps. We'll have to make it happen." The storm raged outside, but inside the Starry chapter, surrounded by books and bathed in the soft glow of firelight and candles, Elara felt utterly safe, cherished, and deeply loved. She knew with every fiber of her being that this man, Liam, was her anchor, her quiet storm, her unfolding story. As the storm eventually began to subside, the rain lessening to a gentle drizzle, the power flickered back on, bathing the bookstore in a sudden, bright light. They both blinked, momentarily disoriented by the abrupt change. "Well," Liam said, a grin playing on his lips, "looks like the magic hour is over." "Perhaps," Elara countered, squeezing his hand. "Or perhaps it's just beginning a new chapter." He looked at her, his eyes full of affection. "I like that idea, a new chapter." They stayed a little longer, tidying up, before Liam finally had to leave, promising to check on her in the morning. Elara watched him go, her heart brimming with gratitude and love. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, feeling lighter than air, the memories of their evening by the fire, intertwined with the scent of wood smoke and old books, filling her with a profound sense of happiness. The next morning dawned clear and crisp, the air washed clean by the storm. Elara woke early, a renewed sense of purpose guiding her. She spent the morning carefully cataloging new acquisitions, her mind still replaying Liam's gentle words, his steadfast presence. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck pulled up outside the Starry chapter, bringing a large heavy crate of new books. Elara sighed, knowing it would be a struggle to move them all herself. Just as she was contemplating how to tackle the task, Liam's familiar truck pulled up behind the delivery van. He hopped out, a warm smile on his face. "Morning, Elara. Looks like you've got your hands full." "Perfect timing, as always," she said, relief washing over her. These new hardcovers seemed to have gained weight in transit. Liam chuckled. "Let me help." He spent the next hour with her, effortlessly carrying the heavy boxes, stacking them neatly in the back room, and even helping her unbox some of the more delicate volumes. His strength was reassuring, his presence a comfort. As they worked side by side, their hands occasionally brushing, A comfortable rhythm settled between them. "You're a lifesaver, Liam," Alara said, wiping a stray strand of hair from her face. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "Just happy to help," he replied, his eyes twinkling. "Besides, I get a sneak peek at the new inventory. Any hidden gems in there for me?" She laughed. "Always. Come back later, and I'll show you some of the first editions that arrived. There's a beautiful copy of Moby Dick with original illustrations I think you'll appreciate." "It's a date," he said, his smile widening. He leaned against a tall bookshelf, his gaze sweeping over the rows of books, then settling on her. "You know, Alara, being here, surrounded by all these stories, it feels right. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Her heart swelled at his words. "Me too, Liam. Me too." The afternoon sun streamed through the front windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. The scent of old paper and new beginnings filled the air, a testament to the quiet magic that was unfolding within the starry chapter and within their hearts. Alara knew, with a certainty that was both exhilarating and deeply comforting, that their story was still being written, chapter by beautiful chapter under the gentle, knowing gaze of Starhaven Bay. And she couldn't wait to see what adventures awaited them on the next page. Liam, sensing her quiet reverie, reached across the table, his fingers closing gently over hers. His touch was warm, familiar, a silent promise. "No matter the plot twists, Alara," he murmured, his eyes twinkling, "I'm glad to be writing them with you." A soft, radiant smile bloomed, mirroring the deep contentment in her heart. This charming bookstore had brought them together, a serendipitous chapter, a haven where their souls met. The scent of vanilla and old books, the gentle crackle of the fire, it all wove into the fabric of their unfolding love story, a tapestry of shared dreams. She leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling the steady, comforting beat of his heart, a rhythm now linked with her own. The quiet magic of the starry chapter wasn't just in the narratives on the shelves, but in the beautiful story they were creating, day by day. As the lamplight illuminated their clasped hands, Alara knew that some stories weren't meant to end, only to deepen, becoming richer with every shared smile, every whispered dream, and every sunrise over Starhaven Bay. With him by her side, every page was a joy. "Yee,"